Welcome back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, our next session focuses on water resilience, corporate leadership in water stewardship. Moderating this session is Mr. Prashant Tiwari, Regional Vice President, Southern Region, UN, GCNI, and Chief Sustainability Officer, Amara Raja Group. Can we have a round of applause and welcome our moderator for the session? It's indeed going to be a very engaging yet a very brilliant session. Joining him on the panel, let's put a round of applause and welcome Dr. Nirav Mandir, Chief Human Capital and Sustainability Officer, Sri Ramakrishna Exports Private Limited. Let's have a round of applause, extending you a hearty and the warmest welcome, sir. Next, let's welcome Ms. Nishtha Gupta, Group Head Sustainability and ESG Suzlon Group, to kindly join us the dais. Next joining us is Mr. Raja Mani Uthayaraja, Director, Manufacturing Businesses, Balmer, Lawrie and Co. Limited. Mr. Rishi Chawla, Treasurer UN, GCNI and Vice President Corporate Affairs, Carlsberg, India. And Mr. Santosh Kumar Singh, Chief Sustainability Officer, Larsen and Toubro. I would request all of you to please give them a huge round of applause as we kickstart our next session, which focuses on water resilience, corporate leadership in water stewardship. Now over to Mr. Tiwari.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Prashant Tiwari from Amara. Happy to be here. Thanks, United Nations Global Compact, for having us and giving me such a good panel. I see representation from so many industries. And thanks for including this topic. The water resilience is something which I personally feel we need to discuss more. There is a lot of action around carbon. There is a lot of, I would say, there is a lot of news around carbon and global warming, but somewhere I think water resilience needs to be brought to limelight. So thanks for having this wonderful conference. Now, my job is to set the context. So, water is something which is central to civilization. I stay in Hyderabad, and before this I was staying in Udaipur, and I asked a question to somebody that, why do you have so many lakes? And then somebody told me that this was the original Manrega scheme. So there were rich kingdoms, but they have no water. So what they realize is they can probably use the skills of the population to dig a lot of those reservoirs. And now today, you see Udaipur as water, I would say, surplus. They have enough water to meet their needs. And this example got repeated multiple times. You go to Bhopal, you go to Hyderabad. So those cities which came up, definitely, without water there is no civilization. In fact, in this water civilization, a name Hindu came from that, Egyptian civilization, so you can go on and on. And the other thing that struck me is, we have seen a lot of the times there are huge reservoirs and there is a temple next to it. So what is the connection? And what I was told is, the primary thing which a king wanted to save from contamination is water. And the best thing to save that water is construct a temple next to it. And you would have seen multiple such examples, right? So we are masters of water conservation. Our culture teaches us a lot. Some of those learnings we may have forgotten. Now let me quickly talk about some of the facts. So 2.5% of the total earth's water is fresh water. And only 0.3% is accessible. Rest is in a frozen mass. And if you look at India, we have 4% of the water resources across the world for 17% of the population. So as a country, almost 70% of the country by area is under water stress, and 30% of the India stays vulnerable to droughts. And even today, if you think about where does the water goes, how it is consumed, so almost entire rural population depends on groundwater. And so does our agriculture. And other part is there are so many rivers and they are dumping good quality water into sea, making it saline. So there are certain challenges. Now I represent Amara Raja, and we are into energy and mobility. And over the time, I have realized one thing: while we may have ambitions to doubling our production, we are not going to get any more permission to extract any more groundwater. So we see it as a risk for the organization, for the business growth. And I think this is something which all of us would agree. Water is a risk. We need to act on it. We need to ensure that our intensity number comes down. And let me now start with Rishi. Rishi represents Carlsberg. I'm sure some of you have smile. So, Rishi, tell me, your beverage industry is water-intensive industry. So, what are the initiatives you have taken in your production or recharge for water efficiency and wastewater treatment?
Hello. Yeah. Thank you so much, Prashant. In fact, you've already given a lot of, you've highlighted the importance of water to the society at large and how sacred the water was to the society. So I'll come to, first of all, I'll let you know what is Carlsberg. Carlsberg is a Danish company. We come from Denmark, and we are a 178 years old company with a rich Danish history and heritage. And the company is owned by a non-profit organization. So the substantial amount of its profits goes into the development of science and technology. So we are one of the largest brewers in Europe. And why I am telling you this is to show the commitment of Carlsberg towards the science and technology. So the pH level scale that is used for the measuring the quality of water, that was developed in Carlsberg Research Laboratory. Even the yeast used in all the beers in the world, that was developed in the Carlsberg Research Laboratory. In 2022, one of our colleagues won the Nobel Prize, Martin, for the click chemistry. So this is the commitment that Carlsberg has towards science and technology and towards sustainability as well. And towards what is the importance of water for us. So almost 90% of the beer, if you see, more than that, the beer is made of water. And even in the processes like the brewing or right from cultivation of the barley, the water is used, or washing of the bottles that are used. So it is very, very important. The water is very, very important resource for us. And our founders, they realized this much, much earlier. So much before the news, these CSR guidelines or the sustainability, they realized it and they started this program called Together Towards Zero and Beyond, where net zero water is one of the goals that we have. And these goals are tied up, or their KR performance is tied with the performance bonuses or even the remuneration of the global CEO itself. So this is the kind of commitment we have towards water. So in India, we have 8 facilities of our own, 8 breweries of our own, and almost 6 co-packers who are bottling for us. Now, for that, to save water or to kind of replenish water or to achieve the net zero water wastage goal, we look towards inside the fence. How do we reduce the water usage to make beers? So we have a goal of till some time back, it was 3.5 liters of water was being used to make 1 liter of beer. That's too high. So our goal is to reduce it to 1.7 liters per liter of beer, and using the new technologies, using the water efficiently, and also using the wastewaters inside the breweries. So all the water that is formed into steam during the boiling process or during the boiler, that is also used, 100% of it is used internally for not making the beer, but then for washing purposes. Then our facilities are zero liquid discharge facilities. We are also outside the fence. We are doing CSR projects. We are exploring. We've already started a project in Mysore with a NGO called Water Aid, and 85,000 cubic liters of water was saved last year by rejuvenating the ponds and the water bodies, and also providing drinkable water, good clean drinkable water to the villages. So almost 34,000 villagers were impacted. So this is the kind of importance that we have, or significance that we have for water.
Thank you, Rishi. It is great to know 1.7 water usage ratio. So 1 liter of beer would need 1.7 liter of water, right? And some of our RO units, which we use in our house, actually end up wasting much more than that. So maybe a time would come, we'll say save water, drink beer. Drink Carlsberg beer, sorry. So thank you. Now, Nishita, coming to you. I mean, you are somebody who is pushing the switch of India towards RE. Suzlon is a very well-known name when it comes to wind turbines. And you do manufacturing as well, right? So would you like to talk about how do you manage water, and do you see water as a risk in your operation?
Hello everyone and good afternoon. So I'm Nishta and I take care of sustainability at group level for Suzlon. Suzlon, as you all know, I mean, it's a name when you talk about renewable energy. We are there in manufacturing, we're there in EPC, OMS, so end-to-end business. We call it concept to commissioning model. So in the manufacturing processes, we have got a very advanced technology. We don't boast about it. It is there even in the sustainability reports so long already. We don't consume water. Water consumption is not there. That's the level of process. But beyond that, still we acknowledge that water is a topic. It's there in the material topic that is there for us, because we have got so many employees which are there in the manufacturing operation. We have got people in the offices. We have got people there not just in the manufacturing, but also in the OMS business, in the EPC business. We acknowledge the fact. And because of that, we are working day in and day out on how do we monitor, how do we reduce water consumption, what exactly is happening around. So it's not something which is that, at the end of it, it's only coming up in the sustainability reporting. Okay, this is how much we have done, this is what we have reduced. We are monitoring every month, every day, and we have got a lot of tools embedded with AI, IoT, which talks about how much is the water consumption, where exactly it is shooting up. So when people talk about in the renewable industry, it's tanker water consumption, things are coming in, or maybe, we are taking it from the water cans and all. We are even monitoring that. That is overshooting, we are even monitoring why exactly is shooting up, because we know exactly the number of employees are fixed. So something must have happened. So that's what we are doing on a day in and day out basis. So coming back to your question, when water is a topic of interest, yes, water is a topic of interest, and we are working on how do we optimize water consumption. We are even working on water-stressed regions. So one of the important parameters that we are working on is the water consumption, even in the water-stressed region, even if it is for the domestic consumption, even it is there, how much if it is. We have even taken targets for that. So that's also what we are working on. Right now, we are even getting on to next level of technologies wherein we can think about, air to water. So that's like the R&D technology that we are working on with a couple of partners. And we are seeing how much of that is feasible. And it also depends on region to region. It depends on humidity, it depends on a lot of efficiency factors which gets into stuff. We are working on those pilot projects at the moment while I'm speaking, seeing that can we leverage those technologies, and we can actually think about not using water in the first place itself. So that could be one way of looking at it, and that's technologies also wherein our partner is working with government organizations. They are working right now in Dubai as well, and we are seeing how effective it could be. So it has started already in 3-4 areas, and once it becomes efficient, we are more than hopeful to utilize in the other technology. So one area what we are working on is on water optimization. Other aspect which I touch you is on taking targets for sure, on optimization, seeing what went wrong, how do we fix up the things. Leakages and losses for sure, because in the system when we say, at a plant level, at a site level, how do we work on this leakages, losses? We know exactly, what this particular this much of consumption is happening. So if this is not there, this has just overshooted, what went wrong? So that's where we are working on. We also have taken water neutrality targets, and for that we are working as a system, as in Suzlon, across all views. So one way which I will tell you about what we are working in Suzlon is not just focusing at org level. As Suzlon, of course, we are committed to water neutrality. But beyond that, what we are doing is, each and every BU, because every BU is unique for our business. So when you talk about manufacturing, human intensive, right? When you talk about the EPC part of it, that's for a short term, but again, it is more on the water consumption for the people over there. OMS is a different model, and we also have a forging and foundry business. Everything is robotic over there. So we are seeing that, what are the unique needs of each and every business and the geographies wherein our plants are there or the sites are there, and what do we need to do to optimize, to conserve. And also what we are doing is outside, there are a lot of interventions we are doing already, not recently, but before even sustainability term was coined, because Suzlon is a company which is working for the last 29 years, they have been taking all these interventions. So our VDC, which we call the Village Development Concept, in that they have already reached a stage of maturity level 7. So now they are self-sufficient. And what we are seeing is that how much is the water positivity has happened. The target is a water neutrality that is there already, but they have become water positive. And right now, we are even seeing in mapping how much of water positivity they have actually reached. We have given back to the ecosystem more than what we have consumed. Apart from the rainwater harvesting, at the rooftop and multiple things that we are doing in-house, but beyond our boundary. So we believe in working or interventions outside the boundary, giving back to the community, and that's what we are working towards, water resilience. That's one thing. And the last thing that I would like to highlight is we are working on a specific assignment on water risk assessment beyond 2050 scenario. So that's what beyond 2050. So 2050 is like a scenario that we are working on. Now this is done specifically to see to it how water could be a risk to the business before we come up with any facility. So let's say when you come up manufacturing operations, you want to come up on a particular site selection, what would be the criteria that can be adopted? So we are working on that sort of, innovation that, okay, let's see to it that can water be considered in the risk assessment, the way we do due diligence, the same way, how exactly we can actually determine whether water is there, water would be there, and this location could become, very critical. Even if you put up your manpower, then from there you can actually procure water from tankers or not. And that is something that we are working on. Thank you.
Thank you, Nishta. In fact, one of the things which we don't discuss it much, but both Rishi and Nishta brought this out. It's about going back to the fundamentals. Know what your water usage is, set targets, achieve them, continuous improvement. And frankly speaking, water being, it's cheap. Even today, it doesn't cost much. And that is why we are not so serious about water. I remember an organization which put a tentative cost to the water. And every department, how much water they are consuming, they would be given that cost. And likewise, the water reduction targets were overachieved. So I think we need to rethink what is the cost of water. If we are able to give it a material value, people would get serious about it. And second very beautiful thing which you brought out is risk assessments. And I think all of us do it in some way, right? When we are setting up a plant, the first question is, where is the water going to come from? Whether they have the electricity, whether they have a road. And if an industry is water intensive, for them it becomes all the more important. So thanks, Nishta. Now, coming to Mr. Rajamani. So you are into, I understand you are into multiple businesses, right? Yes. Steel, sleeves, packaging, logistics. Did I miss anything?
Furthermore.
Okay, you will. Okay. So, I mean, what does this entire water consumption looks to you in your organization? What are the good practices which are implemented in steel and tube production? And are you leveraging any new water treatment technologies? Maybe you can touch upon your goals as well.
Once again, good afternoon. I am Uthayaraja, Director Manufacturing from Balmer, Lawrie and Company Limited. And it's a public sector coming under Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. We work in the two verticals, already Mr. Prasant has touched upon. In services, we have travels. We are the authorized traveling agent for Indian government. All bureaucrats, ministers used to travel in our portal only. We have logistics. It's a kind of a strategic aligned unit with ISRO. So some of the spaceships, they have to shift it to one place to other that cannot be given to any private. So that we are taking care. Apart from that, we have container freight stations. And another vertical is called the manufacturing. So here we have grease and lubricants. Our brand name is Balmer. And we have industrial packaging. We are the market leader for steel drum manufacturing, 210 liters drums. And we have a chemical unit. We are making leather chemical. So Bambalari is into various businesses which did not dwell into. You can name it, we must have done it. That's even we ran once post office also. So this is what our story. So it's a financially rich company. We don't have any loan, and it's a 157 years old, and that entire 157 years, this is making profit, whatever the reason it is. So it's a public sector company, please understand. We're working in the different style. Now coming back to sustainability and water resilience. So I can give you one example from my chemical unit, which is situated in Manali, Chennai. So Manali, you know that it is declared as a red zone, and getting a new plant or getting expansion, it's a very difficult. Whereas my chemical unit here is already reached the capacity to the level what they can authorize to do. And there is a demand for further. So when that is happening, when we are approaching SEIA, the State Environmental Impact Assessment, which is the body from the Ministry of Environmental Forest, MOEF. So they insisted that, the same question what Prasad has told, that how can you reduce your water consumption with the expanded capacity? This is what the target they have asked. Then we started working on it, how we can do. So we are doing the main reaction, it's called for the leather chemical. So from one reactor to another reactor, the gases goes. That means when the reaction is happening, some of the excess gases are coming out. So that cannot be let it out to the environment. It has to be get killed because otherwise it will damage the environment. For killing, there is another chemical we have to use, and there is a water consumption. So then we started thinking what we can do with the excess chemical which is coming out from the reactor. Then we started passing into the another reactor, then the another, it's a kind of a series reaction. Rather than letting out to the scrubber and scrubbing it, why can't we utilize the excess gas? That's why the reaction efficiency will improve. Finally, I will reduce the water consumption. That was the concept. So always you know that one right thought, it will give you the many benefits. So the right thought is it started from that thing, reduce the water consumption. So by doing this, the production and R&D has worked upon this particular target, and they came up with this series reaction. Finally, whatever the gases coming out, instead of killing with some alkali chemical, why can't we do some useful chemical of some other industry's effluent? So that can be used as another useful product. This has been done meticulously, and it has been proved. And I will tell you one thing, we are the first in Manali industrial bed, which is declared as a red zone. We got the permission for expansion. So this has happened. It's a living example. I mean, it's not the simple example, it's an experience. So apart from that, the water, we know the value. So how much water we have reduced from that improvement? It's almost 20% reduction it has happened. As far as another business is, I can talk about industrial packaging, which the many processes are involved in this for making the drums, from steel coil to making a drum. So this requires the main process called degreasing, because while using the steel for the manufacturing of drums, there are a lot of oils and greases used from the steel mill to from our side. This requires a lot of water, and apart from that, once the water you use, there is another impact that it has to be treated, and there is a treatment cost. So this is having the major impact in our system. Then what we can do, then our thought process started whether we can avoid the degrazing completely. We want to eliminate, that's why there is no water used in this system. Now the thought process started, we discussed with the steel mills. Instead of, generally, if you see that the drum manufacturing people used to use ECL steel, it's called electronically cleaned steel. Instead of that, we discussed with the steel mills, we have come up with another quality of steel, which is called the DOS-A steel, dioctyl subagate additive steel, which is giving very cleaned steel that doesn't require any cleaning of your oil and greases. It can be manufactured without that process, but slightly it is higher cost. So we invested in that. Now we have put up our plant in Taloja in Mumbai, which is with this steel quality, without human touch, the complete automated plant, it is being, running in the Mumbai. So this is what the thing, rather than generating the effluent and treating, whether we can avoid the effluent in the beginning of the process, but that's the one thing. And the another thought is, which I told, even if we are not able to avoid, then how it can be minimized. These are the experience I want to share it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rajamani. Great thoughts. If we can avoid, that's the best. So coming to Mr. Santosh, and Mr. Santosh comes from Larsen and Toubro, and construction and EPC business. I think the way they look at water, their challenges would probably be a little different from setup manufacturing. So we want to understand, how this water as a risk, how do you manage water in construction and EPC sites? And what is happening? Are there any innovations coming up in construction sector? Something which other industries can also pick up from.
Yeah, thanks Prashant, and a very good afternoon to all of you. So L&T is not only about construction. We have a large presence in EPC, where we develop infrastructure such as highways, high-speed rail, bullet trains, metros. But we are also into manufacturing and services. And we are also into Industry 4.0. We are into data centers. We are getting into electrolyzer manufacturing. We put up large renewable energy plants. I'll come to the question directly. If you look at L&T's water intensity, it doesn't look very high, hardly about 100 KL per crore of revenue, if you compare with other industries who are much, much more water intensive. But L&T had realized this, that water is very critical and crucial for whatever we do. So you cannot have any construction without water. Concrete will require water, curing will require water. So L&T set itself a target for water neutrality, and our target is publicly stated. 2035 is the target where L&T wants to be water neutral. And what we have done is, target is one thing, but achieving it and having a year-wise target and activity-wise target is something that we have worked on. And for all the IC, independent companies, what we call it L&T for different verticals. All the ICs have very specific targets, broken down into year-wise targets. And then we also have levers how to achieve those targets. So it's reducing the water intensity for each and every process. Like for concreting, we have moved to using admixtures, and we have reduced our water requirement for concrete up to 150 liters only per ton of concrete. For curing also, we use curing compounds. And the entire methodology has been reworked, where we do most of the concreting and off-site in our casting yards, where we have a control over the entire process, where the processes are optimized to reduce water consumption. Then we, at all our locations, or manufacturing locations, we have rainwater harvesting, which is dual purpose. One is storing them for usage so that we draw less and less from the nature, as well as recharging them into the nature, both as in terms of community water infrastructure as well as groundwater recharge. Third thing we are looking at is creating additionality in terms of offsets. So by 2030, we'll be creating about 15 to 16 million cubic meter of offsets through our CSR initiatives. I'll just give you a ballpark figure. We have done in 3 areas, Coimbatore, Udaipur, as well as Aurangabad. We have created more than, say, about 4.5 million cubic meter of potential. So that's what we are working on, and we are steadfast on our target. We are very confident of achieving it. Thank you.
Thank you, Santosh. Now I have Dr. Neerav with me, and I had I would say, privilege of visiting your facility a year back, and I was mighty impressed what SRK is doing to ensure, not only in sustainability, but also the social part. So, Dr. Neerav, I think you should introduce the organization, as well as talk about some of the sustainability practices, your goals, focus around water.
Prashant, I would like to thank you for 2 things. First, before introducing the organization, of course, first thanks is for putting me at the last. And the second thanks for making all the preparation what I had done for this session went into vain. And it happens when you do have a power pack, elected, erudite speakers like Santoshji, Rishiji, Prashant himself, Nishtha, and Mr. Raja. And then the last panelist would say, I'll share some different perspective, like out of the blue, on a lighter note. So thank you very much, Prashant, for asking this question. First and foremost, I would like to thank UNGC Network India for convening this session and getting all of our corporate citizens together to speak on such a related topic. And I was discussing in the speaker's launch, when I did attend the UN Climate Week in New York last year, 60% of the discussion out of 1,500 sessions happening throughout the Climate Week were based out in the water conversation and water resilience. So that is something which is getting the traction across the world when we are talking about this subject. Coming back to your question, I would be more than happy to introduce SRK. Myself, Dr. Nero, I am having the honor to serve as the Chief Human Capital and Sustainability Officer for Sri Ramakrishna Exports, fondly known as SRK Group, which is not only world's largest diamond manufacturing and export company, but more importantly, it is also most compliant company across all the gems and jewelry sector, and the company which initiated not only the proactive approach in the water resilience, but all water, waste, energy, and carbon. So that is something which is coming directly from the top leadership, and we are setting the benchmark for the entire gems and jewelry sector. Just to give you a sense that you might have seen and heard about diamonds, you might be wearing the diamonds, especially for those females are wearing there in this room. But if you see 10 diamonds across the world, you might be amazed to know that 9 diamonds passes through the city of Surat, which is there in the state of Gujarat. Out of 9 diamonds, if you see any diamond above 3 carat, the weight of a diamond gets measured into carat. 1 carat is 5 carat is equal to 1 gram. You can do the math. So if you see any diamond above 3 carat, out of those 9 diamond, 6 diamond belongs to the SRK group across the globe. So that is the market share, especially which the SRK group is holding and contributing to the national economy at largely, especially while attracting the foreign reserves, because we do the value addition. So we are into B2B market, we are not into retail. But the point I would like to make it over here, that most of the companies, the representatives are there from a listed or a limited companies. You're glad to appreciate that in India, there are 1.5 million companies. Out of those 1.5 million companies, there are only not more than 8,000 listed or limited companies. Now imagine the representation of the rest of the companies, which are contributing almost 85% to the national economy, and those companies belong to the MSME sector. So that is something, and Prashant very wisely mentioned about the percentage share, the 4% available water resources in India. But just to add one more math into it, India, we are living in a population, we are contributing 18% of the population of the world. And with this 18% of population, 4% water reserve, it's something the math is not matching to. And that sets the complete playground, how we are bound, it's not an option, how we are bound to work in this area. And that's what we come, and especially with the support of leadership, both our manufacturing facilities in Surat, are not only green building certified by US Green Building Council, because USGBC might have certified almost millions of projects in 185 countries, but both manufacturing facilities are among the top 5 green buildings of the world. And we are charting the benchmarks in the last 3 years. So it's water, of course we are concerned about it, but at the same time we are also more concerned about the other parameters. When we're talking about the carbon neutrality, we talk about the carbon emissions. And last year, you might be glad to appreciate that India as a country, our targets to get net zero is by 2070 as a country. We set the target initially to be the net zero in the energy part by 2030, and we attained that target last year with a global certification agency called Global Network for Zero, and then by 2024, last year, we became the net zero manufacturing entities. So that is something all about the intervention of the company into that given space. When it comes to the water as a component, as the company is committed, in the manufacturing, it's like the Suzlon Nishta talked about, that's very minimally used. Same as the manufacturing of the diamonds when it's used in a very minimalist manner, except the sustenance of the employees when they are working in the organization. But at the same time, we built the check dams and the canals in the district of Amreli in the state of Gujarat. So almost more than 100 check dams and canals been built in more than 150 villages, and that impacted the lives of the millions of people in that drought-prone and the less water availability areas. And that is something, as part of the CSR, the company is committed to look into. I'll share some of the other best practice in the over period of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nirav. I think I should also talk about Amara Raja now. We as an organization are water positive. Last 3 years have been really exciting for us when it comes to water. So all our manufacturing today, and this has happened in last 3 years, we have zero liquid discharge units. So my absolute water consumption, which is called as fresh water consumption, has come down by 20%. And if you look at intensity, it is 50% reduction from FY22. We have created 23 check dams, and we also realized that in order to continue to expand, we need to get water managed pretty well. So today we have within our plants reservoirs, and almost 2 to 3 months of the year, our plant does not require any water from outside. We can use our own reservoir to run the factory. And Dr. Nirav, you touched upon two very important points. 15% are listed companies, but there is a huge mass which is consuming resources, and that's where I come to the supply chain. And Nishtha wants to. So Nishtha, what I would request is, try to define for us what water stewardship part is, and how do you manage your supply chain partners? How do we motivate them and take them along in our sustainability, especially on water goals?
Thank you, Prashant, for this question. So first thing is that, what you asked in the beginning, do we see water as a resource? Now we are sorted. Water is a resource for everyone. Within your own plant, within your premises, for your own people, water is a resource. Beyond that, water neutrality is one. Beyond that, what do you see? Water positivity? Because you want to see that you should be having an impact on the community at large, right? But beyond that, what is beyond water positive? I mean, what we are doing, all of us, is like seeing, what all could be the impact within our operations, outside the boundary, till the time we can actually create an impact. What about supply chain? I think that's where Dr. Nirav touched upon the major impact. Whenever we look at supply chain, it's very critical to examine. It's not just about carbon. Beyond carbon, there are a lot of things that we need to see. What exactly the supply chain is contributing to? Whether our suppliers, they even know that, water is a risk to the business? Because whatever we are procuring from them, the goods and services, we should evaluate them even on those parameters. What is happening on the MSMEs? I mean, not just on MSMEs, in fact, for the biggest suppliers as well. If it is on the binary principle, yes or no, do you have this or do you don't have this? If it is only on meeting the BRSR requirement, things will never proceed. We'll have to do beyond that. We'll have to see what is actually happening around. Are we monitoring on spend basis, even like what is the water consumption happening around? Are we setting a target on that part? Are we even monitoring that what exactly is the water consumption on the products and services which they are providing? That's exactly what we are trying to do right now at Suzlon. So it's beyond what you're doing, right? So it's not just on whether you have a water policy or you are working on water, are you monitoring water consumption, but how much is the water consumption getting into the product level? What you are procuring, can it be linked to the spend basis? Can you actually draw some sort of inference out of it? Can you set targets based on that? So that's where when you talk about sustainable supply chain, I think that's the piece that is a missing link. At the moment, if I tell you what sort of things that we are driving at Suzlon, I'm proud to tell you a lot of initiatives which we are working on. At Suzlon, we are a partner on India Green Steel Coalition, which is a movement driven by WWF and CII. A lot of people were wondering why Suzlon participated in this movement. We participated from the responsible customer side of it. When most of the steel industry, 85% of the steel industry, is participating in over there, more from the primary producer part of it. We are joining in to create a momentum, a market wherein we can not just get green steel, but also set sort of principles, what is required over there. So it took picked up, and right now what you see is like, a lot of, the standards which have come up, and beyond that also a lot of things are being driven up, and we are also working with couple of players, let's say Jindal for the moment, and then it's more on participating on the green steel movement. So that's not just a participation in the movement, but more on the implementation side of it. On a similar way, what exactly needs to be done on the suppliers wherein we are working on the sustainable supply chain is also with the, let's say, Bureau of Indian Standards. So even there are standards which are coming up. So we are even participating over there as to what exactly MSMEs need, because MSMEs, they don't have any know-how. They don't know what is required in the sustainability aspects. So if you tell them this is required, the first thing they will ask is, where is the standard? What am I supposed to do? So that's what we are working on. We are contributing even in the standards part of it. So, and that also includes a lot of capacity building sessions, which all the chambers are right now working on. We are even working on that and contributing on that part. So that's beyond, the boundary of Suzlon. That's where we are contributing to. It's for the larger piece, for the India-wide commitments of decarbonization. And decarbonization itself cannot be achieved beyond water, if I talk about, till the time we have supplier inclusion. So that's the thing that's like a missing link, which is there. Within the organization that we are working on, water stewardship, we are setting commitments even from the supplier. We are making them understand what is required. If you talk about how Suzlon works on this one, it's not just an ask basis. If it is only on the compliance principle, things won't work. We work with them on a day in and day out basis. We tell them this is how it needs to be done. If they are facing any challenges, we are working along with them. We are doing a lot of capacity building sessions. We call them to our campus and make them understand what is required, what is the objective, why we are doing this, and how this could actually create a market from them as well. If you convince something on incentivization beyond the reward and recognition program that we have, it will also encourage them to look forward. What exactly they can do, how they can also attract a lot of buyers, that's what we are trying to work on, and that's actually happening. So in the last 2 to 3 years, if I tell you, around 89.5% of the suppliers that we have assessed, they have provided outcomes of what they're doing, and at the moment, they are even providing narrative of how much is the improvement happening around. So it's not a one-time assessment that we are working on. We're working on a routine engagement. We are even setting targets, and that is very sector-specific. So if we are procuring commodity like steel, there is a very specific targets for them. And if we're working with MSMEs, it's more on the encouragement model, and we are trying to set a target that what needs to be done next in the next quarter or 6 months. So that's actually, applying different lens to look for it and setting water stewardship initiative on that part. So that's what we are working on, and thank you so much, Prashant, for this question.
Thank you, Nishta. One question which I have, this theme is collaboration, and maybe this question I can ask Mr. Santosh. Can industries come together? So it's like industry A, treated wastewater, can be utilized by industry B as a raw material, thus reducing the overall freshwater consumption. And there are examples, but Mr. Santosh, maybe I would want you to put some light on this. How can industries come together? Are there any live examples which we can share with the participants today?
Yeah, there are a lot of opportunities for collaboration, right from R&D kind of thing, developing technology, where many industries are working with academia, universities. At L&T, we have our own water research lab we have put at Kanchipuram. But coming to the specific example, I believe there are many industries who are using treated wastewater from municipal corporations and are fully dependent on it. So you were in Udaipur, so I believe Hindustan Zinc is one which uses treated wastewater from Udaipur Municipal Corporation, and irrespective of their being in a water scarce area, low rainfall area, they are never short of water. Similar example I can give you is, I believe there is a power plant in Koradi, which uses almost 140 mld of treated sewage from Nagpur Municipal Corporation. There are many other models coming up. NTPC is coming up with many power plants which will be using the treated sewage. In fact, Raipur power plant will be based on the Raipur treated sewage by Raipur Municipal Corporation. That is where there is a partnership between municipal corporation, the state government, and then the private industry where it's happening. There are many examples where the industry is doing it for itself. So whatever wastewater is generated in a township or in a process is fully utilized. And not only the industry is zero liquid discharge, but even the townships are now zero liquid discharge basis. So that's the way going forward. In fact, at L&T also, most of our campuses are zero liquid discharge, where we use our wastewater. The way we look at it, whatever recycling and reuse we do, we reduce our requirement or dependence on nature for drawing that water. So it straight away reduces our water consumption as well as the intensity. Thank you.
Thank you, Santosh. I got 5 minutes left. Please wake up. Oh, wrap up. Okay. So, I mean, very, very interesting thing, I remember, and this is something which would become a very common place where a big manufacturing company adopts the sewage treatment plant of that local town, use that treated water. I mean, I was working for Hindustan Zinc before Amara Raja, and I realized there is one risk which we don't talk about anymore, which is water. Because Udaipur sewage treatment plant will give us enough water to run our manufacturing irrespective of there is a drought or whatever. And I'm telling you, that would also become an expensive resource. There would be industries fighting amongst each other to own up those STP plants because even the treated water is going to become an expensive resource. So thanks for bringing this. One last question which I have, and maybe I can request about communities. So this is what we spoke about, industries can work together. But would you like to also share some thoughts around how industries and communities can come together and do certain things? Because all said and done, 70% of the water still goes in agriculture. So can organizations do certain things to reduce this water risk?
So, like I said earlier also, for cultivation of the ingredients, the major ingredients, barley, rice, wheat, the farmers require water. So, in fact, as a supply chain, they are our primary suppliers. So what we've done is we have now focused our CSR projects on regenerative farming also, so that farmers, we can support the farmers to produce, to cultivate barleys or other cereals by using less and less of water. So for that, we have tied up with Indian Institute of Wheat and Barley to develop seeds which use less water. We've also tying up with other academic institutions where Carlsberg Research Laboratory from Denmark will be sharing best practices with these Indian institute under the Ministry of Agriculture. This is one part. Second part is, see, outside our breweries, we are using water in the breweries. We are extracting water, and we are cognizable of this fact that this is the community resource that we are using. So that is the reason we have started, like I said, from Mysore. Now we'll be moving to other states also and adopt different villages outside the breweries and restore or recharge the water that probably we have to become water positive as well. So we are also supporting these communities with wash projects, providing them drinkable water, restoring the water bodies which had the water was reduced by whatever reason, whether it was by usage from the industry or naturally cleaning up those water bodies. So this is how we are helping the different our communities, where basically our resources, our labor also come from those communities. We realize our social responsibility on that.
So thanks, Rishi. And I know, I mean, this is a topic we can talk for long, but I have the heads up from Deep. So let me just quickly summarize. Water is not just a resource. I think it is a responsibility. It's a shared responsibility. The choices which we make today will determine the water security of future generations. Businesses, communities, policymakers, industry, all of us need to collaborate. There is enough water. I don't think so water is going to run out. But we need to manage it better. We need to utilize it well. And industries must move beyond compliance and become active water stewards. And when I say stewards, they should look at the entire supply chain rather than only restricting to their four walls. So with that being said, I am not sure whether we have time for question answering, but thanks a lot, panelists. You have been wonderful, and I enjoyed my interactions with all of you. If there are any questions, maybe we can take them up for 5 minutes. Yeah. You have a question?
Sorry. Thank you very much. And it's a wonderful moment to be with all of you, the distinguished guests. And the topic that you are talking about is very, very relevant in today's Indian scenario. So I think you know that India is a home of 80% of world population, and we have only 4% of world's fresh water, drinking water. So definitely there is a challenges in India, water challenges in India. We have lots of, the initiative, the innovation to do, whether it is water stewardship, innovation, community awareness, corporate partnership. So my question for two verticals, two major issues to improve, to increase water resilience in India is first related to innovations. So what role can startup, because you know the startups are growing very fast and they are really helping the corporate to just achieve their agenda of water resilience. So what role can startup and entrepreneurs can play in driving water innovation in India, and how can corporate support them? This is the first question. Ma'am, just one more. And the second question, which is a very, very important body, that is called decision makers, the policy and regulators. So what policy and regulatory frameworks are needed to support corporate water stewardship and innovation in India? Because both corporate and the decision maker, both stakeholders are required to support this water resilience, and this will definitely help us to face the challenges, water challenges in India. Now over to you. Thank you.
I'll just share my perspective and then over to all the other esteemed panelists over here. So on both the questions, I'll share my views on that. So when you talk about how startups can contribute to, so the technologies which I spoke about, air to water, that's also for the startup one, right? So they're the ones who are coming up with this technology, and this is how you can involve them in a day-to-day basis as to what are the technologies. How do you encourage them? Because at the end of it, I mean, at least for us as an organization in Suzlon, we believe in Make in India, and we promote all the Indian technologies. So we get into this discussion, what is coming new, if it's there with even the educational institutions. Like I belong from TERI, so I keep discussing with TERI, IIT, IIM, and also the startups. And can we get into some R&D to see to it what's the next level? So I think on that part, we are more sorted. We have a lot of technologies already available at the moment, which are working on not just in water, but also reducing on the water consumption and minimizing your effluent waste and all. So this is what is there. Regarding your second question, very quickly, I'll just add on to that what you said, the role of regulators. Believe me when I say that regulators at this point of time, they are looking forward for it. So when you talk about reasonable assurance, now the next level which is coming up, it's more on getting onto the intensity part of it. So what exactly is the intensity that you are consuming? You have to be very sure and concrete while you disclose that. And when you get onto the disclosures and apart from that, if you get onto the assurance agencies, when you hire them, you have to substantiate with a lot of evidences. So that's where it's already been picked up. So it's not just emission intensity, it's also the water intensity. So that's where it's not just going to be for the top 150, 250 listed companies, but going further, it will be even for all the companies down the lane. And also there are a lot of things which are being done at the ministry level where they are thinking about, what is the next level when we come up on the new set of regulations. And with the new regulatory regime, what you see, not just in a global level, but also in India, what you have seen, the momentum is picking up and we see on a day-to-day basis, because this is being the top topic of the town, that what needs to be done now? What could be done from the regulatory regimes? They're also thinking from that perspective.
Can I add 30% remark, Prashant? Just a 30-second, I won't take more than that. Just to add what she has mentioned, I think the problem starts with that. The moment we defines water as a resource, we ought to believe that resources are always limited. And the moment we talk about the water stewardship, I think the problem lies that whose responsibility is. Is it the responsibility of the corporate or the community or the citizens or the government? I think that is something we are lying in that paradox system, that why we should be waiting to have the legislation to tell us what to do in the water stewardship. Why can't be proactive enough where we can play our bit in a voluntary and the honorary approach? Why to wait for BSR, GRI, G4 or any of the standards to tell us what to do? We have learned as a rich legacy of our Indian mythology and the India as a country, we do have a rich history to conserve the water. I think one is to get back to the fundamentals and start contributing without waiting for anything.
Maybe I can just quickly, talk about one incident. I remember the Minister of Water, there was a conference with the industry and it was around Ganga Action Plan. And the industry basically came to plead before the minister that you cannot stop the industry. There was some NGT ruling and it was, so what the minister did, she took a glass of bottle, said this has Ganga water. So before the meeting started, she took a sip from it. And then what she said is, this is mother. And industry are, all the son. If I have to save one, I'll save the mother. And there were no questions after that. And actually it happened. A lot of industries were closed down next to the bank of River Ganga. But coming to your question, regulations are there. I mean, national water policy is very clear. In case there is a dearth of water, first you drink, then you go to agriculture, and the last priority is industry. I don't think any of the industry who is getting a new CTO will get it without a zero liquid discharge. Zero liquid discharge was opposed in the past, 4 or 5 years back. It was seen as an extra cost. Today it is de facto. All of us who are sitting here, we probably know for sure next time when you go for expansion, you will say, I'll increase my production capacity, but you cannot ask for more water now. And there is a lot of, Central Groundwater Authority, those borewells needs to be registered. And after 3 years, if the status of that change, you may have no guarantee that you will continue to get the water from it. So regulations are there. I think they are doing their part. Industry has already realized it's a big risk. And unless we do something about it, there have been a lot of work also. It's not that when I say zero liquid discharge has reduced my water consumption by 50%, it's true for everyone. Initially, we thought extra investment, extra energy, do we want it? What will we do with that so much water? But now we realize, and we are seeing the fruit of that implementation. I think, Santosh, maybe you can quickly touch and then we can close.
I'll just add that water was the first environmental parameter to be regulated in India. So it started right in 1972. Water Act was the first one. And if you follow how the regulations have moved or evolved over a period of time, initially it started with setting standards only. Standards for discharge. So you had all those standards for different categories of industry. Then it moved to the impact assessment kind of thing, that what's the kind of impact an industry will have on the water regime. And then it moved to the numerical limits. Like for power plant, you cannot use more than 3 cubic meter per megawatt of water. For steel plant, again, those limits are 2.7 cubic meter. And now the regulation is moving towards technology. Like for steel plant, there is already a mandate that you have to, if you are a coke manufacturing, that it has to be dry coke quenching only. CDQ is what we call. If you are going to put up a power plant, it has to be recirculating system with zero discharge only. So it's again the technology. So I believe the next stage regulation will be mainly mandating technology that you can do, or mandating technology that you can adopt for your process.
Thank you very much, sir. But Only one worry is there, the construction, big construction company. I don't know whether they are just, implementing these water policies or not, but this is my personal experience. But sorry, thank you very much for your insights, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, can we have a round of applause to all our esteemed speakers and moderator for such an enlightening session on water resilience. Their insights have highlighted the crucial role businesses play in sustainable water management, ensuring resilience for both industry and communities. We truly appreciate their time, expertise, and